Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of
Welcome.
We are here. We got Coach D back with us and Julie. And guys, I just want to talk about, for one, the Olympics are done. Is anybody sad?
Yeah.
Well, they were the lowest viewed Olympics in, I don't know, modern history.
And that might be true, but boy, did I enjoy watching them and the stories and all the challenges that people faced. And it was like probably the coolest Olympics I think I've ever seen because of all the emotion that went along.
There's a lot.
Oh, the families not being able to be there and
That's a lot.
Everything. That was so cool to watch.
Being locked down while they're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be able to do all the cool stuff.
Especially because of our show, like I can't remember his name, but he does shot put. But that man came out from the jump, breaking his own world record like 2 or 3 times in a row out of 4 or 5 throws. Like, wow.
So yeah, he threw that one, turned around. I did it. He broke the world record right after he threw that. It's like, that was amazing. And he had a great story. He is an animal. I can't remember all the details to his story, but it was such a good story.
Was he an American athlete?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the American.
Okay. Did he win the gold?
Yes.
I don't think there's anybody touching him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But hey, last week we had a goat of all goats. It was our biggest viewed show. It was our star of all stars.
Yeah, he's a goat in training.
Yes, he is. Baby goat.
Yes, baby goat.
Ignacio. Yes, that's my guy. So very tenacious through injury, through just being small and being foreign, speaking a different language, having his first sport being soccer. That all those adversities, he continues to grow and progress. It's beautiful. He is truly a story of a young goat.
My favorite part was when his dad was saying one of the things that you might need to work on is your physical because you're a little bit smaller. Nutrition's important, and how he went on to describe that, how he used to only eat his meat and carrots, but now he eats meat, salad, and rice, and he drinks his milk twice a day. I thought that was the cutest.
Love it.
All aspects of his game. I thought it was so cool. And his little mind, it's like it really, like he is a champion.
Yes.
His dad said it. It's like he shines his light everywhere he goes.
Yes.
He's not just on the basketball court. He gives 100% on the basketball court, but he does that every relationship, he gives 100%. And you could tell when he was talking, it was just like, this kid is so cool.
He is. I could tell from the videos that Damien had sent us. That's why I said we've got to get that little guy on the show because he's definitely a goat in training, a baby goat.
Well, and speaking of people that train goats, we've got somebody tonight that is one of the most amazing goat trainers that I've ever heard of. And I'm going to have to read a little bit because you know what? I tried to rehearse and remember and look at all this stuff, and I can't remember all the good things
that
Mr. Paul Coach Winkeler, our friend from right down the street down at Rockhurst, is. Let me read a little bit. He didn't graduate from the Rock, but he earned his blue and white since joining the Rockhurst faculty and coaching staff in 1999. Coach Wink took over the reins of the swim and dive program in 1999 with the sport as a mystery to him, and he had zero experience walking into this. I can't wait to ask him about that. So he took what he'd been considered an individual sport and brought what was called the team mentality to an individual sport. And that's what's really cool is, swimming, diving usually isn't considered a team sport, in most people's minds. And what he did with it, as a result of doing that, he went from 20th his first year to 8th to 6th to 4th to 5th before winning it for the next 11 straight years before stepping down.
That's crazy.
That's a team sport. That's what
Wow.
GOAT team guy would do. That is so cool. So I want to learn how he did that and pick his mind and dig into how did you create that mentality in an individual sport that is a team sport. So I am so excited. Let's bring on our guest.
Okay, I'll bring him on,
Coach Wink.
and I'm going to step out after I bring him in.
All right, Julie, it was good having you here.
All right, I'll see you guys.
Coach.
Hi.
Hey, Coach
Welcome
Wink.
to the Coach.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
You know, I heard this story. I was reading all this stuff about you, and I want to start with you took over this program with zero swimming and diving experience.
Yes. Yeah. It was, I grew up playing hockey and baseball, and
okay.
grew up in St. Louis, and where baseball is king and hockey's number two, and played my whole life, and came to Kansas City to go to college, and began coaching actually right out of college and teaching chemistry at St. Teresa's Academy.
Okay.
And around that time, they wanted to start a softball program. So I helped start the softball program, was their first head coach there. And about 2 years into that stint, the Jesuits called from here at Rockhurst. And the rest, as they can say, is history, because I went to a Jesuit high school myself back in St. Louis, and came over here. And really, to be honest, was hoping to go back to St. Louis. So this is going to be like a stepping stone for me. And I was going to go back to St. Louis. And my first month or so into my job here, I knew I wanted to coach. I've always loved coaching. To kind of go back even a little bit further, my hero in life was Whitey Herzog. Growing up as a kid in St. Louis, everybody loved Ozzie Smith and Keith Hernandez and all those guys.
Right.
I loved Whitey and Whitey ball and bunting and running and playing on AstroTurf. And so when I was a kid, I didn't know how long I'd actually be playing, but I knew that coaching was in my future.
Right.
And it all started really with Whitey. So
That's great.
So when I came to Rockhurst, I really wanted to make that transition from softball into baseball. And one day I was called into the principal's office, and he said, he sat me down and said, listen, we have a need. We need a head swim coach. And I know that you know how to coach because you coached softball over at St. Teresa's, but we need a swim coach. Would you do it for just a year? And we'll get you somebody that knows the sport of swimming to kind of help you out. I'd been a lifeguard growing up and Eagle Scout, got all my merit badges and stuff. But in terms of competitive swimming, I'd never been a part of that.
Different world.
So I said, I'll make you a deal. I said, I'll coach the swim team for a year if you let me volunteer as a baseball coach and like at the lower level, freshman level. And he goes, you got a deal. It's volunteer coach, you betcha. So back then we had, I think it was like 15 kids in the team, no JV team, no dive team. It was just me and 15 of the boys. And, I had a great time that first year. The boys were phenomenal. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I'm extremely thankful for is that they gave me a chance.
Yeah.
Because I walked in and they were okay. They were a top 25 team in the state. But here I come in, and I was honest with them as a baseball coach and a hockey player and a baseball player. Mm-hmm. And I said, here's the thing, guys. Here's what I need from you and what you need from me. I said, I come from the team concept. I said, I played second base my whole life, rolling double plays. You got to communicate. You got to talk. You got to know what's going to happen. And I said, I will teach you the team concept in a sport that you keep saying is an individual sport, but you got to teach me about the sport of swim.
Wow.
I said, so let's work together. And we did. And we had a whole lot of fun. We really did. The team had never won a major invitational. We did that down in Springfield that first year. And I love those kids. I really did.
Yeah.
After that first year too, DeSmet called, and my alma mater, and they said, what do you think? Do you want to come home? We have an opening and stuff. And I said, I can't leave these kids. I can't. I started thinking about certain kids that I coached back then.
Wow.
Like, their faces came into my mind, and I couldn't think of telling Scott Campbell, Andrew Clement, George Robinson, hey, I'm leaving. After the year we had, I'm leaving.
Wow.
And
what was that like? So you were getting these opportunities that you wanted to go back to St. Louis. That was your dream, but you made these connections with these kids that altered your decision.
A lot.
It's your heart. It's your heart.
Wow.
And I, I in my mind, I was going to be back in St. Louis. I mean, I've been here for Rockhurst now for 23 years, and I would have been back 20 years ago. But it's really back. It really is. And this is my home now. I'm still a Cardinals fan, still a Blues fan,
But you were pulled so hard by this team.
Yeah, it was. It really was. And these are kids that eventually were in my wedding. I mean, it's been to all their weddings. I've got a picture somewhere right here in my office where I've got a picture of one of the weddings I went to, and there were 5 captains up on the altar as groomsmen, and I was brought to tears. I just like, that's everything to me. And I think as time goes on, that's what it teaches you, especially about winning, is that it's not about winning. It's about going to weddings and seeing those kids. Right. We had a big alumni event a couple of nights ago with all the alumni from the swim team, and getting to hear about their children and their wives and their jobs and what they're doing. And, it's just, we've been fortunate enough to have some kids that have swam the Olympic trials, and we've had quite a few kids that swim in college, but a majority of our kids don't. So when you don't have kids that swim in college, I got to give them something. I have to give them something to take with them to use in college, in their jobs, in their marriage, in their work. So that to me is what's really important. So
that takes so much more work than in a lot of ways. To build an individual to be great is one thing, but to build a mentality of greatness, of all these people are doing good. Our team is winning. We are working as a whole. It's like those relationships. That's what makes them great.
Sure.
Is you helping with that, helping to foster those relationships and those kinds of things.
Well, that's what I always tell the kids. It's when I go to weddings, it better be a team reunion, because
I love that.
Yeah, these are kids that they work for each other. They're each other the godparents of their sons and daughters.
Yes.
They stay in touch. I've got a pair of kids that I coach that they now have their own podcast together down in Dallas. And I found that out the other day, and I listened to that, and it has nothing to do with swimming.
Yeah.
It's about culinary stuff and food of the South and whatnot.
Beautiful.
But it's awesome. And they're still together, and they're still friends, and they're still together. And that's
Sharing
what you want to see. Exactly. That's what you want to see. Life. And so I've always said that swimming is really the vehicle to get these kids to where they're going to be in life, and to help them understand the relationships in life, to help them understand how to work within a concept that's bigger than yourself. Because we have one of the top swimmers in the state with us right now, Caden Francois. But I've helped Caden understand it's not about him, but it's also not about me. It's about all of us. And it's about how we work together and building up, as I call it, that team concept that when these kids come in, it's a culture that we put together. So
that was one of my first things is what is your, I guess, first step to building a culture with a new set of team? Because in high school you do actually get to keep them for 4 years. So when you get these new batch of freshmen coming in, how do you start fostering that culture?
Well, just to kind of go back for a second, so I had to step down in 2014 because there was an administrative position here at Rockhurst that opened up that the administration really wanted me to apply for, and I couldn't do both. And you go where you're needed. And so I stepped down and started working in the administration. When the swim job opened back up again, I was already in a place where I missed it. I missed being in the classroom. I missed being on the pool deck. I still coach baseball. I missed coaching baseball. Walking away from that taught me that it let me know what I'm really meant to do in life, and that is to coach and teach. And then I teach chemistry, so I missed all that. So they asked me to come back in 2018. I said, you better believe it. Let's go. And so I went right back to the classroom, right back to coaching. So when I came back in 2018, I had kids on the team that didn't. I mean, I knew them, but they didn't know me in the concept of Coach Wink. And so I had the alumni from before write every kid a letter about what it meant to be on the team, but nothing about swimming. It was about relationships. It was about cheering for each other, helping each other out. It's about elevating yourself to where you're swimming for somebody else. We talk about that all the time. Don't swim for somebody else.
Yeah.
Some of the best swims we've ever had are when kids get outside themselves and start swimming for somebody else.
Right.
And so they explained that to them. So when I came in that very first practice, I handed every kid a letter from an alumni that they didn't know, but it put into context, what is the essence of being an Aquahawk and what does it really mean? And so we got going, we got that culture back pretty quick. And then when I get freshmen in every year, they spend a lot of time with kids that have already been on the team. So like last night we had cuts. Today was our first full practice with everybody there. And I sat them down all in lanes, and lanes are kind of like a line in hockey. There better be communication, there better be flow, there better be chemistry. That lane has got to flow, and with the divers too. And so I sat them all down, and each lane pretty much has a senior or a junior or an upperclassman in that group. And they just talked. They talked about the essence of what it means to be us. We had 18 new freshmen this year, so we have to help them. As I said today, we have to help them get to being understanding what it means to be one of us as fast as possible. You know, it's the little things, and it's you know, during practice, it's kind of an Alabama thing, but at 5 o'clock I blow a whistle, and all the kids put 5 fingers up instead of 4. It's 5. They put 5 fingers up. That means it's 5 o'clock. We got 45 minutes left to practice, and right now it really sucks because we're all getting our butts kicked, and it's tough. But I understand that, and I've got more to give. Let's go. And everybody kind of pauses at 5 o'clock, puts their hands up, and I'll finish up practice. Yeah, it's little things like that of like, you know, I wear these shirts, and you can see it's called Day 2, and it's kind of our mantra. And I'll explain that in a second. But you know, the kids have to understand, what does that mean? I have about 30 of these shirts, and I wear them to every practice. And so far, the kids trying out have seen me every day this week show up in these Day 2 shirts. And the kids even asked me, like, why are you wearing the same shirts every day? And I'm like, ask an upperclassman. They'll tell you why. And so it's that whole culture has to come from the kids that are on the team, not me. No, so that to me is part of it. It's
but it had to be created somewhere, and you had to create it originally. And I love that they can carry it on. What is amazing to me is you were gone for those 4 years.
Yeah.
Came back, and the next year you won a state title.
I was gone for 3 years, actually gone for 3 years. And I came back in 18. We basically took the same team that was 11th the year before, and we placed 5th. And then we were 2nd in 19. And then last year we won state.
That's just amazing. That's such a testament to you, what you create, what you bring to the table as far as a coach, and you know, swimming, I have watched, I've worked for the Olympics. I've seen a lot of swimming stuff, and you bring something unique to the table. It's not a team sport usually.
No, it's not. It's something where, you know, we do things like group hugs. Like if there's a lane that's having a day, you'll see one of the other coaches, and they all buy in. So they'll get the kids all together, and they'll all put their arms around each other like in a circle. And it's all about using each other's energy to keep going. It's a tough sport. These are 10,000 yards a day. It's brutal. They don't, and I'll tell you what too. The funny thing is like me growing up as a baseball player, I could shag fly balls and bunt all day long and love every minute of it.
Yeah.
You ask most kids, they hate swimming. They really do, because it's so brutal. They love to race, they love to compete, but it's a grind. It's a day-to-day grind. But these kids come back, and it's not because of me, it's because of each other. And you have some kids that'll never go to state, but they swim all 4 years, and they might be a captain. But you know, for whatever reason, they don't make it to state. But at the same time, they come back every year because I want them to know that every one of them can contribute to the team. It's not about points at state. It's about, what do you bring to us, and make sure that you identify what that thing is and give it to everybody. And so it's all about what can you give. And a lot of kids come back for the sense of obligation because like, this is what I've done. This is what I've done for them. It might be my leadership. It might be the academic side. It might be my character, whatever it is. But I've got to be that for these guys because they need me. And that's a big part of it.
Do you have team meetings that you help kids to understand that?
Yes.
You go, I love that.
Yes. We meet. I'll spend more time with these boys than my own family. Sunday night, I told my kids goodbye, and it's kind of sad.
It's like this sometimes.
Like, they have their own activities too, so it's like goodbye because here, and this was tough with COVID because we couldn't do this. But a normal year, which we're hopefully going to get, the kids during their downtime they hang out in my classroom, and they're doing things like talking about practice. I post my practices, what practice is going to be like that night. They're talking about their classes. If I've got a freshman who's struggling in Algebra 1, I guarantee he's going to be approached by a sophomore who took that class with the same teacher, and he's going to help him out. And they're going to help, during lunch or during then. So my room is kind of like, their clubhouse where they're hanging out together all the time. And they do that 24/7. So it's not like, this is not a 3-month or 3.5 months out of the year job. They're doing this in January, in February. Yeah. They're talking online. We use the GroupMe app. They're talking online throughout the summer and stuff. They're together all the time. And then with meetings, we met tonight before practice. On Saturday, we have a team mass for all the families. They come in, and it's a prayer service that we have to get our youth started on the right foot. And then we'll go play paintball after that. Then we've got a team meeting after that. We'll have a team dinner. And so Saturday is all about the team. And then we have meetings, dinners all the time. They're always being evaluated. They're being surveyed. Yeah.
One thing that I know, I've worked with a lot of athletes, coaches, and those kinds of things. And one thing that I think they don't have enough of is those things. Yeah. Where it's not necessarily the practice and getting better and lifting weights and doing all these things. It's bonding to build that community and that team and that synergy and all those kind of things, even if it is an individual sport. Tennis, I have seen like UMKC, I started working with them as a group, and they started supporting and cheering and yelling for each other, and they won conference, and it's like, that's what makes an individual sport fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, they know that they are expected to, and they do it without being asked, but to support one another. I mean, during races, nobody sits down during a race. They're all up and down.
Right. Yes. I was about to
cheering, and it's
yes.
I mean, it's during our 11-year run that we had at state, we were only favored to win by points, probably 4 or 5 of those. So you've got to create points when you go to state.
Yes.
And how you do that is by number one, kids understanding about what the strategy is and what our game plan is going into it, but also of who's counting on you. We have alumni that come back that watch the race, and now everything's on TV, so they're able to watch it all and stuff. Right. So understand that it's more is expected of me to step up, so they go faster because of that. But it's that team concept. Yeah. I'm not swimming for me. I'm swimming for a much bigger thing. But then it's important to understand that.
Now in that balance of the team concept, how do you foster, like, the mindset or the foundation of a GOAT, like one of the best athletes in the sport, like a kind of a prodigy at their particular event? How do you accelerate their growth within that team? We all are on the same level, because that's a balance. I think a lot of coaches, man, we need some help in that area.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's we have a wide range in the team. We do. And I don't ever want to hear a kid say, well, I can't try out for Rockhurst because I'm not good enough. I only swim in the summer times, and I wouldn't make the team. They're a nationally ranked team, and I can't do that. I want kids to at least try out and to give it your very best. And hopefully, that'll work out, or that, it shows you what you're capable of doing. We have a wide range, though. We have some kids that won't letter, that it takes them a few years to letter, that have their own goals. And then you have kids, like I have a set of brothers right now that are 2 of the top swimmers in the state that, they could probably step onto most colleges right now and do a phenomenal job. And I think with kids like that, first of all, I want them to come to Rockhurst because they buy into everything here at this school. This is a school that has a mission statement. It's a Catholic school. It's a school that's built on service towards others. If you're coming just to swim, it's probably not going to work out. And for some kids, it hasn't. And that's okay, because you need to come for the whole thing, for your self-formation, for your spiritual side, for the academics, for everything. Yeah. So when they get that message in the classroom, that kind of filters over into the pool also, because they want to serve others. So when I've got a young man like a Caden Francois, who is absolutely a phenomenal backstroker, I'll have him work with some of the younger kids and help them with their backstroke. Yeah. And part of why I do that is because I want to work with Caden. I don't want to swim for me, because Caden's got a ton of knowledge, and all these kids that come in, they've got a ton of knowledge, and knowledge comes from their own experiences. And my experience in the sport is different than theirs.
Hey, let me ask a question about that, Paul, because I've been thinking about that since you started. You didn't know what you were doing. Swimming is a technical sport, and I know you've learned it now, but when you started, it's like, how did you place 20th at state with not having the technical? I mean, you never even went to a tournament before.
Yeah. No. So, you know, I think part of what helped was being in education, because I believe in, well, really two things. Anybody can learn anything if you put your mind to it, which sounds kind of Pollyanna, but it's true. And then we can be lifelong learners. You know, really my hero in life is my father, and my father worked for the military for 40 years, was an aerospace engineer. And by the time he retired a couple years ago, he was the world's authority on cargo helicopters. He traveled the world, help other countries start their own cargo helicopter program. Wow. And that's what he was known for. When he first started with the government back in '69, he had never even been in a helicopter. He'd flown, but never in a helicopter. And he learned his very first day, they brought books to his desk, these huge binders. And they said, when you're done reading those, let us know. And he read and read. And, you know, it's you can learn. And so really, I look at him and I'm like, if he can do it, I can do it. Right. And so it took me a few years, and I got involved in the American Swim Coaches Association and the National High School Coaching Association. And I just gobbled up everything that I could. And I started watching it. And I just, you know, I'm a visual learner, but I can also read.
But coach, your first year you got 20th, and it's like you didn't even know the basics. It freaks me out. It's like it's a huge testament to just coaching and being that type of influence on people, and all that can have that much impact. You can work on their strokes, you know, you did later and you do now, but at that time it was like, I got to get this mentality right.
Right. Well, what I had to do early is I had to develop a philosophy, and I kind of had that already from coaching softball and, you know, baseball before that. I've coached a lot of other things, but to me, I think it shows is that coaching is really just, it's about people, and it's about helping people, managing people. You know, it can't be about me. It's about them. When things go south, it's about me. But when things go right, it's about them. Lifting other people up. And I think, you know, that's part of it, you know, like, I mean, for example, when I was fortunate enough to go in the Hall of Fame here at Rockhurst, back, I think it was in 2015, I was approached a few months before that by our athletic director. And he said, the committee here would like to induct you in the Hall of Fame. And I said, no. I said, you put the boys in first. We've got so many good swimmers that need to go in before me. I said, absolutely not. So months went by. The athletic director came back to me. He's a very good friend of mine. And he said, I have something to tell you. And the correct answer is thank you. And then he said, you're going to go in the Hall of Fame. And I said, I'm thankful. I'm very appreciative. It was a wonderful night. There were a ton of alums that showed up, and it meant a lot to me. But at the same point, it's not about me. It was about the kids that were on the floor looking up at me. It's like, they're the ones that do all this.
Coach, they are, but let's get down to reality.
Yeah.
There's a lot of coaches out there that don't bring what you bring to the table. Just the mentality, the attitude, the supporting of the kids, the positive. And so the uniqueness of what you've been able to accomplish and what you've been able to do is worth recognition, and you deserve it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's an honor. It really is. And it's something where, you know, I'm planning for my retirement financially, but I know I won't get there because it's like my
Sure.
next stop's a cemetery. It's like it's I love what I'm doing right now.
Yeah,
So happy. I can't imagine doing anything else. And
right.
I'm so blessed to be with the kids that I have. So
I can tell that from the bottom of my toes, Coach.
thank you. Thank
And
you.
this whole interview, I can feel it. And I want to thank you so much
Sure, you bet. You
for
bet.
being part of this. We're going to do first, we're going to do the GOAT tip.
Okay.
We got a GOAT tip that we do every week. And the GOAT tip is dive, don't jump. And Coach, I'm going to refer this a lot to you, but I want to start with when I work with a lot of peak performers, a lot of high end athletes. And what I find that is unique with them that's different is they go in head first, they dive, they all in, I'm going for this. A lot of people jump.
Very true.
And they jump and they go feet first and they're a little bit cautious and they don't go all in. And what's different is those performers, it's like, get out of my way.
Yeah.
I'm in, I'm 100% committed. That's what you create on your team.
Yeah, it's the truth. It's, to be honest, in the beginning, I tried to handle both baseball and swimming. And you mentioned one of the years, we went from 20th, and then it was 8th, and then it was 6th, and it was 4th. Yes. And it was the year that we fell back to 5th that I had an epiphany, I guess you could say, where it's like, I have to recommit myself to this and get even more into this and really transform who I am. Because if not, then I'm cheating out some kids on a phenomenal experience. Wow. And so that was, that you mentioned that year, that 5th place year that we fell back.
Wow.
That was a big moment for me. It really was. And then from there we took off. So you're right. It was diving in.
Wow, Paul.
Coach,
so cool.
Forgive my French on this, but it is our phrase, and you just did it. You owned your shit. Yeah. You came straight forward with it, and you made that commitment decision.
Yeah,
that's definitely one of our
even like going into the season. It's I spend the entire off season going through our entire training and evaluating everything, evaluating the program of how we support kids in their academic goals, evaluating, even the surveys that we have the kids do and what they've been telling me about the program. I've never trained a team the same way every single year, but I have to be prepared. I got to come in and ready to go for them, because it's ultimately about them, and I owe it to them to be fully prepared.
Wow. Yep. Did that statement sound very powerful to me? I've never trained a team the same way, because you learn the team.
Yeah. It's the truth that you got to know. You have to know your crowd, and you have to know and understand what their needs are. And, and that's to me, the power in surveys or evaluations, as I call them, is at the end of every year, they fill out this big packet that I ask them about, did we support your academic goals, and how did you feel about the training, and what about the schedule? And I want to know I don't know what you think about everything. And then, then that's how you keep evolving. And it has to evolve. It has to, we're never done. It has to keep growing, keep evolving. So,
you just defined GOAT coach in my opinion.
100%.
Thank you. Damien,
I
can mention real quick, because I saw a note up there about what does day 2 mean. I just want to talk about it real quick, if you don't mind, because day 2, it'll be on my license plate someday. It'll be on my gravestone someday. If there was anything that I could actually copyright, it would be the day 2 thing. There were years when we were winning state, I'd say from about 05 until about 08, where, state's a 2-day event. You have prelims one day, which you might have like 45 kids that are in an event, and they only take the top 16 that actually go on to the next day. Right. So day 2 is finals, and it's kind of like the Olympics, where it's prelims and finals.
Right.
So there were years, those early years, we was doing really, really well in prelims, and then we had enough kids in finals, we would do okay, but our times wouldn't really be much better. We just kind of hold on and win by numbers. And so I started thinking, I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like the fact that day 1 is better than day 2.
Yeah.
I want to be competitive both days. I don't want to win by numbers alone. I want to win because we won, because the kids are at their very best.
Right.
And so I started thinking about, how we train the kids and everything else. And so we did some tinkering with the training in about 2008, 2009. But then it also became a mantra where we came up with the day 2 concept. And it's a mindset, and the kids buy in completely with this, because it's more about swimming. It goes beyond swimming.
Yeah.
It's all about you give your very best effort on day one, and you make it, but you haven't earned any points yet. You haven't done anything.
Right.
Right.
You have the very biggest swim of your life on one day, but you got to go out and do it the next day.
Right.
And so it's all about, once you've given your very best, what else do you have left?
Yeah.
You got something more in you. There's something else to give there.
Right.
And so you hear kids, they'll shout day two in the hallways. It's whether it's for AP tests or whatever, it's all about that second effort. It's all about, what do you have next to give? When you think you've given your all, you got something else to give. What else is that? And so it is everything to us in terms of what we do and the way that we live our lives. And when you're tired, day two, come on, it's you got to keep going. And so sure, like a bulletin board where it's right there in front of them all the time.
Yeah. I love that attitude. You've created such a cool culture.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So
I'm proud of those boys. Thank you.
Oh, you deserve to be. And it's one of those things they say, I'm a therapist. They say, if you can get a group to lead itself and you shut up, then you've done the right thing. And it's like, if you can get your team to create the culture and move it on and put all the pressure to get them to try harder, it's like you've done the right thing.
Thank you. Thank you. It's they do such a great job of supporting one another in the classroom, at the pool deck, and being leaders. And, that's I think it's a big part of it, because you just mentioned it about getting them to lead each other. It's right now during the season, my captains are learning how to be captains. They're learning how to be seniors. They're learning how to lead, and they're kind of learning on the job. And so I'm doing right now a whole lot more, and it happens every year, where I'm kind of coach and captain in a sense at the same time. But as the year goes on, they'll notice I start pulling back more and more. And by the time we get to state, they're leading each other. And I'm there talking and doing technical stuff. But at the same time, by then, they know what they're doing. And that's the whole idea, is to get them to lift each other up and go on great things.
That's, like I said, a great coach.
Thank you.
You bet. Damien, do you have the
housekeeping items?
That's what I'm trying to say, Damien.
The first thing I have, is definitely we have our workshop coming up, our Shut Up and Listen. Jeff, that's actually one of your babies.
Yeah, it's going to be a workshop. You're going to be there too, D. Don't get me wrong. But we're going to be talking about how to really connect with your kids and how to listen and how to not make it about you. A lot of parents put pressure on their kids, and this workshop is all about learning to really, really connect with your team. So it's on the 31st at 6:00. And I hope a lot of you can make it there. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good workshop, and we're going to give some prizes away, and it's free. So put it on your calendar.
Yes.
And
then next week, we got one of my personal friends, great hooper, ex-NBA player, phenomenal. Like I said, man, more than anything, and leader. Coach, you're over there at Rockhurst with him, Coach Billy Thomas. He'll be with us next week. And I'm very excited to have him. Like I said, some of the stories he shared with me and Jeff the other day were just like, wow. Hearing him talk about what LeBron James is saying in a huddle, it's just like, that's pretty cool. Some people can say that from that perspective. Besides that, make sure everyone subscribe to check out us on the YouTube channel, Triumph Performance Institute, and also on Facebook at facebook.com/TriumphKC. And then one thing I wanted to ask you, Coach, before we get off of here is, as a coach and loving to, again, generate, what I've always said in basketball is like, player-led teams win more than coach-led teams, when it comes down to helping the parents, what are the things that you kind of have done to really foster the culture in at home, like having the parent support what you're doing in your practices and things like that?
A lot of it is within the culture of the sport. It's a very, I think each sport has their own, let's say, stereotype athlete, and swimmers are in general pretty independent, and so I think that can help. But I do a lot of just explaining the program to the parents originally when they first come in. So like we have a parent meeting coming up next week, and I'll spend quite a bit of time with the freshman parents explaining how we do things, but also why we do things. And I think that's the most important thing is the why. Whether it's, it meets, we don't have these tech suits, and we don't shave, we don't taper, we do nothing of that until the state meet. We wait. And there's a reason why. I want to make the races as tough for these kids as possible up until, you let the reins go at state. And so, but I explain to them why, because some of them don't understand that. And it's, and part of it is me asking for their patience also, and for their understanding. And it's worked out pretty well. It has. And, the parents will come down and talk to the kids, after the meet and stuff like that. But for the most part, they notice that we stay as a tight knit bunch on the pool deck. And I always tell the kids, talk to your parents afterwards. But for now, it's I think, that trust level is there. And part of it is too, is they see the results of the races and the seasons. And they know that, being a successful program, that we're going to make their kids not only better athletes, but also build upon what they've done, but also better students and better young men, and with the formation and stuff. So I've been very fortunate to have some wonderful people within my program as parents that have helped me out and have done a lot of great things for us, and have been really good friends of mine.
Great. I love it.
Thanks,
that was the best answer I could have asked for. You're writing our textbook for us, Coach.
I'll write it someday time. It's
you really need to. You're right on. It's with so many of these concepts, and with so many challenges in the sports world and the mental health arena and all that, building the support and building the ability to communicate with kids and getting them to communicate. It's like you're answering the call to the challenges that kids face today.
Yeah. It's, one of the best things that I was blessed to have happen in my life is there was a young man who came back to the pool about 2 or 3 years ago. Well, this would have been maybe a little bit longer than that, but he'd been out of the water for a while. He graduated from Dayton University in Ohio, and he was having a hard time finding a job. He had a great degree in engineering, but he was like 2 years out, still living with mom and dad, and just struggling to try and find a job. But he came and talked to me, and he said, what? He never went to state, earned a varsity letter, but never went to state. But he said, you know what, Wink? He said, one of the things you taught me is perseverance. He goes, I know I will find a job. I just got to keep at it. And that was the thing that I learned from this program. And I just thought that's
enough.
That's everything. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
And he did. And now I saw him this past week. He's got a wonderful job with a small engineering firm. He's blessed with a wife and a wonderful child and a home. And it's just like Dan Myers' his name. And I'm so proud of that kid. So
yay. That's so cool. And I guess my guess is you have, with the length of your career, I'm not saying you're old, Coach, but with the length of your career, after I've read all this, you've got so many of those stories. You've touched so many young people's lives.
Yeah. Thank you. I've been blessed to be in their life. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And
thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Yes, that was it.
All right. Well, thank you. And we will see you all next week, everybody. And tune in to The GOAT next Thursday night. We'll see you then.
See you, Coach.
Thank you.